Cabinet meeting. A little bit of housekeeping. There are no plans for a fire alarm test this evening. If the alarm does sound, please use the exits that are clearly marked. And I'm sure everybody's aware of where the toilets are within the breakout room. Can I please also ask that mobile phones are switched off or placed on silent for the duration of the meeting, and also please no private conversations whilst the meeting is taking place. Thank you. So if I can move on to ask cabinet members and officers to introduce themselves. I'll start. I'm Councillor Andrew Walmsley, Deputy Leader of the Council and Lead Member for Resources. Start with Michelle.
Councillor Michelle Smith, Lead Member for Housing, Health and Wellbeing, Communities. Yeah, I can never get it in the right order, sorry.
Councillor Samara Barnes, Lead Member for Planning, Working Groups and Committees.
Adrian Lithgow, just a Lead Member for the Environment and Corporate Services, sorry.
Thank you, Cabinet Member. If I could ask officers to introduce themselves. Let's start with Jackie.
Hi, Jackie Flynn from the Communities team at the Borough Council.
Angela Richmond, Service Assurance Team, Benefits Lead.
Kimberly Howarth, Head of Financial Services.
Claire Birtwistle, Head of Legal and Governance.
Andy Taylor, Director of Operations.
Thank you, everybody. And again, just to welcome anybody who may be live streaming from home. If I could also ask members to please speak into their microphones so that those that are live streaming can hear everything that's being said in the chamber. Thank you. That moves us on to item A1, which is apologies for absence. The apologies for absence this evening are Councillor Alison Barnes and Councillor Nick Harris. I can see that all of the members are present, so thank you. That takes us to A2, which is the minutes of the meeting held on the 13th of May 2026. Can I ask if those meeting minutes can be moved?
I'll move those.
Thank you. Can I ask if those are seconded?
Yeah, happy second.
Thank you. And can I ask members to vote? Thank you. So that's the minutes clearly carried. That takes us on to item A3, which is urgent items. I can confirm that there are no urgent items of business this evening. Now on to A4, which is declarations of interest. Could I ask members please to declare and clarify what their interests are, stating which item number it refers to and whether that's a personal or a prejudicial interest. Thank you.
Can I declare a non-pecuniary interest in D3 as Vice Chair of RRSG and also volunteer with them?
Okay. Thank you, Adrian.
So I withdraw from that item.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other declarations of interest on the meeting items this evening? No, thank you. So that's B1, public question time. I can confirm that there were no written questions that have been received and there is no members of the public in attendance this evening. Thank you. So that takes us on to C1, which is the Chair's update. And I can confirm that the Overview and Scrutiny Committee met on the 15th of June to consider the electric vehicle charging and infrastructure strategy, the communication strategy and the annual action plan update, the Q4 performance management report, the Valley Plan Outturn Report 25-26, and the Overview and Scrutiny Annual Report for 25-6 and the Work Programme for 26-7. I'd just like to place on record my and our thanks to the Overview and Scrutiny Committee for the work that they do for us. Thank you. That takes us on to now item D1, which is Housing Benefit, War Pensions and Armed Forces Compensation Disregard Policy 2026. I will introduce that before and then ask if it could be seconded. The Housing Benefits, War Pensions and Forces Compensation Disregard Policy. The report seeks Cabinet approval to continue in the Council's long-standing policy of fully disregarding war disablement pensions, war widows and widowers pensions, and armed forces compensation scheme payments when calculating housing benefit entitlement. Whilst the regulations require the council to disregard only the first 10% of these payments, the regulations and the Act allows the local authorities to disregard the whole of the amount. Rosendale has exercised this discretion since 2005 and also has applied full disregard within the local council tax support scheme since 2013. The policy supports the council's commitment under the Armed Forces Covenant, which we adopted in 2023, by assuring that military compensation payments do not reduce housing benefit entitlement for veterans or war pension recipients and their families. The current view contains no substantive policy changes and is primarily a refresh of the policy format and presentation. Retaining the policy provides consistency between housing benefit and council support, supports vulnerable residents and help prevent financial hardship. Removing or reducing the disregard could lower the benefit entitlement for affected claimants, potentially increasing reliance on other forms of financial assistance and create inconsistency across the council support schemes. The monitoring officer has confirmed that the council has a legal authority to continue operating the policy and that maintaining it provides clear guidance for claimants, auditors and subsidy reporting requirements. The policy clearly has a positive benefit for veterans and members of the armed forces community through increased financial security and housing stability. The recommendations in the report are asking Cabinet to approve the housing benefit, war pensions and armed forces compensation scheme disregard policy, maintaining the full 100% disregard for eligible war pensions and armed forces compensation payments in housing benefit assessment, and to delegate authority to the Head of Customer Services and ICT in consultation with the lead member to make any minor amendments to the policy. I believe that approval of this policy will reaffirm the Council's support for our armed forces community, maintaining consistency across benefit schemes and ensuring compliance with legislative and audit requirements until arrangements are in place or different arrangements are in place through the local government reorganisation. And I'd just like to also add that we've discussed how we can ensure that residents and agencies working with veterans are aware of the policy, and officers have reached out to our statutory partners and VIC for their input on how we can do more to support this. Thank you. So I'm happy to clearly move that report. Can I ask if it's seconded? Thank you. Are there any questions or comments on the report? Okay, thank you. So I can confirm the report has been moved, has been seconded. So can I ask members to vote? Thank you. Clearly carried. That takes us on to item D2. Sorry, I'm shuffling too many pieces of paper here. Which is the electric vehicle charging and infrastructure strategy. Can I ask Councillor Lithgow to move and introduce the report? Thank you.
Yeah, I'll move the report. Do we need to get it seconded first? Or?
Yeah, I'm happy to second the report. Thank you.
Okay, so I mean, basically, this is just a progression of what we're doing at the moment. So we declared a climate emergency in 2019. And as part of that, the council adopted a climate change strategy and action plan, which prioritised, amongst other things, the decarbonisation of vehicles. So this was an area in which Rosendale Borough Council could have a big impact, and it could also do a lot of work on its own fleet as well, so it could make a contribution and get our own house in order. The action plan included actions to expand both our and public electric vehicle charging infrastructure. In order to facilitate future and expansion of EV charging infrastructure, RBC has developed this strategy, which is introduced in this report. In section 3, there's the outline of the context for this decision and lays out the good progress and efforts made so far within the infrastructure. So what we've done so far, this has resulted in us having the highest rate of charging points, I think 184.4 per 100,000 people amongst the 12 Lancashire district councils. I think it's fair to say that the work that Quabina and colleagues have done has been very successful. The key actions are listed in 3.12. The expansion of publicly accessible charging points, working with LCC to support on residential streets, EV charging infrastructure, which is, I think, the biggest logistical challenge, because as we know, in Rosendale, many of the streets are terraced housing, and that's where the greatest challenge, I think, in terms of technology is going to be, in terms of introducing EV charging that is viable. Also intending to secure external investment opportunities, as we have in the past, and identify further sites for installation. We're also encouraging non-council operators to invest in this, continue to evolve with the council fleet. We have that progress has been ongoing since we declared the climate emergency, and we made good progress so far, but we plan to continue with that. We're going to look at refurbishing and future-proofing the current infrastructure, which we've already done a lot of assessments on, and we have made significant improvements to many of our buildings. Also, we need to raise public awareness further, and we need to stay up to date with modern developments and explore the other possibilities which are listed in the report. Some priority locations are also identified within the report. This strategy has been to ONS and recommended for approval, so I'm happy to remove the report and answer any questions and hope that other people will support it. Thank you.
Thanks, Adrian, for moving that report and speaking to it. Can I ask, are there any questions or comments from members? Councillor Barnes.
Hi, thank you, Chair. It's just something that popped up while you were talking about the infrastructure. I don't know whether I'm remembering this right, but I'm sure a couple of years ago a notice of motion went through that suggested that all new builds, on all new developments, the properties must have EV chargers. Have I remembered that right? And if so, is that sort of taken into consideration in that strategy? Because obviously as our number of new builds grow, so will the capacity across the borough.
To be honest, I can't remember whether that was the case or not. I know it was discussed at one point. I can find out if I can get back to you.
Thank you.
Sorry, any other questions or comment? Councillor Smith?
Yeah, just when you said about the a lot of our housing stock is terrace housing, what's the sort of thinking on that? Do we have a plan of how we manage that?
I think the thinking is that it's going to need sort of external investment, really, because obviously it's going to involve massive infrastructure in terms of putting things into the pavements and stuff like that to have a viable system. But what we want to avoid really is having sort of wires going to hit everybody's window and stuff like that. That's not going to be the future, really. So I think that is the biggest challenge, to be honest, and we're a long way off that, but we are sort of looking at possibilities. We have explored possibilities like sort of in terms of heating systems in some of the houses where we've got trying to group some houses together to put like ground source heat pumps into those. So, but that again is a very expensive process. So the amount of it's going to need considerable investment. If not, be Rosendale Borough Council installing for all the terrace houses in Rosendale.
Thank you. Councillor Barnes, do you want to come back in?
Yeah, so it was just on the thing around terrace houses. I'm sure Lancashire County Council at one point were delivering a scheme where they were supporting residents have their own, are they called like channels? And they were funding that, because I know I helped a couple of people in my division. So I don't know whether that's something that we could sort of investigate a bit further as well.
Yeah, I think a number of areas do have sort of channels across as well. But if you multiply it by the number of people, the number of cars, the number of streets, then it becomes a massive economic challenge, really. And I also don't know what a long-term solution for that would be. But I presume as technology advances, you will get things which are more rapid, more powerful, and don't require being all the wires, etc. But I think we're a long way off that at the moment. But that's one of the areas we need to explore. How do we make it work in what is in the reality? But it's the same problem for everywhere else, perhaps just to a more particularly greater extent with our housing and areas like ours. I think if you've got semi-detached or attached house, then it's quite straightforward to install the infrastructure when it's built. but there's no way we can go back to all the houses
Yeah.
that have built 100 years ago, and we need a solution for those really, which is more difficult.
Thanks, Adrian. Yeah, I agree with the comments raised this evening. There is significant challenge with terraced properties, particularly, not least the installation, but then the opportunity to park in proximity to your property, enable you to use the charging point that's been placed. Clearly, on street charging points within our car parks across the borough are bringing those opportunities for visitors to the borough and also our residents that are here as well. So the opportunities around that are certainly something that we should continue to explore, and we also should be really proud of the fact that we are significantly ahead of our neighbours in the performance of this. But you're right, it's around significant infrastructure investment, not least through some of the electricity supply entities as well to bring that power. So it's still an ongoing challenge on there, but certainly good news. Sorry, Adrian, do you want to come back?
There are other challenges as well, in the sense that you need the right charges in the right place, basically. Like, you don't want to have a slow charger going into somebody's house. Well, you do want a slow one in somebody's house, but not in a car park. If you're waiting to go shopping, you don't want to go out and find it's made like a 2% difference after you've done your shopping. So I think it's the right charge in the right place as well. And again, that needs to be thought about strategically, because if a lot of people when they're driving will come off the motorway to charge up, but they won't turn up. It's going to take them 12 hours to charge the car. I mean something like Haslingden might be a lovely place to come off the bypass, but you don't want to spend 12 hours there to charge your car. You might, yeah.
Thank you, and thank you for the comments. I think there's some good points there to take forward. Not least that this is a charging infrastructure strategy that continues to highlight the challenges that we've discussed this evening, and will hopefully go forward as part of the organisation of local government. So the report has been moved and seconded. Can I ask members to show in support? Thank you. That's clearly carried. So that takes us on to item D3, which is the Rosendale Refugee Support Services tender.
Do you want me to move the report, Andrew?
Just allow Adrian
Oh.
to leave the room,
Oh,
please.
sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. Just to confirm that Councillor Lithgow has left the chamber. If I could ask Councillor Michelle Smith to move the report.
I'll move the report and second, and I'll introduce the report.
Yeah, I'm happy to second the report. Thank you for introducing it.
Okay, the purpose of the report is to seek Cabinet approval to award a 2-year contract of 119,000 to the Rosendale Refugee Support Group to deliver a borough-wide refugee and asylum seeker support service funded through the Council's asylum dispersal allocation. Approval is required because the tender exceeds £100,000. Lancashire County Council ended local refugee support funding in August 2025, leaving only a small volunteer-led service. Rosendale currently hosts 243 asylum seekers, including 25 families, plus additional refugees under national resettlement schemes. Demand for support has increased and the current provision is insufficient, geographically limited and over-reliant on volunteers. The Council has secured asylum dispersal funding, which can legitimately fund resettler support, integration, wellbeing and orientation services. Tendering resulted in just one compliant bid from Rosendale Refugee Support Group, offering expanded drop-ins, casework capacity and borough-wide coverage. The current provision is for a 2-weekly drop-in in Haslingden with limited casework and no service in the east of the borough. Resettlers require support with housing, GP registration, schooling, employment, wellbeing and community integration. Without a commissioned service, pressure falls on council teams to meet these needs. A scheme of delegation previously approved 95,000 for up to 2 years. Tendered cost exceeded this amount. However, the asylum and dispersal funding can accommodate the increase to 119,000. If alternative external funding emerges, the contract can end after year 1 and council funding redirected. We received 2 bids, one compliant and one non-compliant and significantly over budget. The compliant bid, which we are proposing tonight, includes longer Haslingden drop-ins, new Bacup drop-ins, additional paid caseworkers, and increased intervention and integration support. The recommendation is that we approve the procurement and accept the tender from Rosendale Refugee Support for £119,000 over 2 years, authorise the Director of Place in consultation with the lead member to extend after year 1 subject to performance and funding, and authorise the Head of Legal and Governance to enter into all necessary legal agreements. Thank you.
Thank you for introducing the report and moving it. As I said, I've seconded it. Just wondered, is there anything you would like to add, Jackie, before I ask members to?
Yeah, just very quickly, we have gone for a year now with no grant-aided voluntary sector support at all for this resettler cohort. The funding from LCC ended in August 2025, and this group that actually have been successful with the tender process have provided an amazing service on a shoestring with small grants, but can't continue to do the level of work that's needed really to support them. I'd just also like to add that without this support, it would fall on council officers to actually be providing the support, and capacity would be an issue. That would be it really.
Thanks, Jackie. Thanks for your comments there. I kind of remember being around at the inception of the volunteer support network, or the support network being run by volunteers for asylum seekers and refugees, and the work they did from that concept document, or concept idea, some good number of years ago, to the support now offered through the voluntary sector in supporting asylum seekers and refugees is really quite amazing. There is for us as council an opportunity to financially support that group further that has gone through from its initial constitution to the various strands to be a recognised entity and group, and to see the opportunity to strengthen that support across the borough, I see as a very positive move forward, and I think the point is well made that it would add more pressure to our officers without that support. But what it's also doing is making that support available in the communities where those residents actually are, with people who are volunteers who know the areas well to help support and signpost. So I'm pleased to see this report this evening, and I'm very happy to be in a position to support it. Sorry, I went on a little bit then. Is there any comments or questions in connection with the report, Samara?
Again, they're just comments more than a question, and it's just that I'm pleased to see that this is coming forward, especially with the uncertainty around the commitment going forward from Lancashire County Council. The service that's been awarded, it has got an excellent reputation locally and across the whole of the valley. And from a personal point of view, I know some of the families who have accessed that service over the years and seen how they flourished, how the children and themselves are integral parts of our community in Haslingden. And I just think it's absolutely the right thing to do.
Is there anything you wish to add, Councillor Smith? Okay,
Jackie summed it up, I think, very well.
Thank you. So the recommendations are for us to agree to proceed with the procurement of the Rosendale Refugee Support Services and accept the tender from Rosendale Refugee Support Group with the commencement of the service in August 26 for up to 2 years at a total price of a contract price of 119,000, to authorise the Director of Place in consultation with the lead member to extend the contract after 1 year, subject to satisfactory performance and available funding, and to authorise the Head of Legal and Governance to enter into all necessary legal arrangements for the delivery of the service. As I said earlier, the report has been moved and seconded. Can I ask members to vote? Thank you. That is clearly carried. Can I ask the Councillor Cook can be invited back into the meeting, please? Thank you. Thanks, Adrian. That takes us on to item D4, which is the acceptance of Grant Rosendale Collaboration Agreement 26 to 29, reducing smoking prevalence rates in Rosendale. I'm happy to ask Councillor Smith to move the report.
Thank you. I'll move the report, and if seconded, I'll introduce the report.
Yeah, I'm happy to second that report. Thank you.
The purpose of the report is to seek Cabinet approval to accept £156,000 over 3 years from Lancashire County Council to extend the Smoke-Free Lancashire Collaboration Agreement until the 31st of March 2029, enabling continued delivery of a targeted smoking cessation support in Rosendale. The collaboration funds a health and wellbeing coach hosted by Rosendale Leisure Trust, delivering community-based interventions, brief advice and referrals into specialist smoke-free Lancashire services. Rosendale overall smoking rate, 15.2%, mirrors the national average, but prevalence is significantly higher in priority groups. For example, routine manual occupations is 28.8%. The programme has strengthened local cessation pathways, increased referrals and supported improved health outcomes. The extension aligns with the Valley Plan, Health and Proud Communities, Lancashire County Council public health priorities and national tobacco controls objectives. The recommendation is that we approve the acceptance of the £156,000 grant and authorise the monitoring officer and the Section 15 officer to enter into the collaboration agreement up to March 2029. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything you wish to add to this, Jackie?
No, just very briefly, the programme's been delivered on our behalf by the Rosendale Leisure Trust using their work coaches, and it's been really, really successful. They're a difficult cohort to work with, but it has been very successful, and it would be a shame to see it disappear because they built up a real level of confidence within the community.
Thank you. The report has been moved and seconded. Do any members wish to ask any questions or comment? Again, it's another good news story for Rosendale, the opportunity to accept some additional funding into the borough around smoking cessation. The work that has been done previously and certainly the successes that have been noted in the past see that there are some really good opportunities through this programme, and it's good to be in an opportunity to continue with it. So I'm really pleased to see this coming forward this evening. So to confirm, the recommendations are to approve the acceptance of the grant for £156,000 to extend the Smoke-Free Lancashire Collaborative Agreement with Lancashire County Council, and to authorise the monitoring officer and the Section 151 officer to enter into the collaboration agreement up to March 2029. The report has been moved and seconded, so can I ask members to vote? Thank you. Clearly carried. Thanks, Jackie. Feel free to leave. That takes us on to item E on the agenda, non-key decisions, and that's E1, the communication strategy 25. Oh, sorry, apologies,
Yeah.
missed D5. That's item D5, sorry. The improvements to Edgeside Play Park facilities. Can I ask Councillor Lithgow to move the report?
Yeah, thank you very much. Another very positive report, really. I mean, members know that over the last few years, done a lot of good work in the parks in terms of refurbishments. So in this project, it'll be Edgeside Park play facility that's going to get some funding. So in this report, there's authorisation for acceptance of the £20,000 from DET and approval of the budget of £140,000 for the new play area. It also authorises officers to go out to tender for the works and authorises the Director of Operations to accept the most advantageous bid in consultation with lead members. Refurbishment of the parks is a priority within the Edgeside Park Master Plan and forms part of the Council's capital programme. So the money in terms of where it's coming from, Pride in Place Board provided £90,000, £20,000 is from DET, and £30,000 from Green Spaces Capital. So it's been bringing in external funding to do this, which is a model which has worked in some of the other parks so far. Overall, a very good project. The tenders have been prepared, which we published in July with a view to completing the work by the end of the year. In context, the current play area is over 35 years old and it's no longer fit for purpose. So it's an investment in Edgeside Park, which I think we should all welcome. It's part of the programme of upgrading parks, and there'll be other parks get some money and funding in the near future. So another positive story. Good news, really, I think.
Thank you, Adrian. You've clearly moved the report. I'm happy to second that report. Is there anything you wish to add, Andy, before we ask the question?
No, I think it really just to stress this is a programme of improvements that we're looking at identifying a range of parks throughout the area, and we will be bringing forward some proposals for 5 or 6 parks spread across the borough and for further consideration.
Great. I'm sure we're all looking forward to those coming forward. Thank you. Do any members wish to comment? Michelle?
Yeah, just to say, good news. I think it's all good news tonight, isn't it, for a change? Great to see this coming forward again. I just say lots of investment in our parks, and I think we need to congratulate all the staff and volunteers for the green flags that we've achieved this week. It's great to see that Rosendale Borough Council are investing in all our parks and are looking at a programme to invest. So yeah, great news, and I'm sure our residents will be delighted when they get all their new parks.
I wholeheartedly agree. Thank you. Councillor Barnes?
Sorry, thank you. Yeah, it's just to really welcome this because, as most of you know, I spend far too much time on social media, and when there are posts about a park being done up, there's always comments, what about Edgeside, what about Edgeside? So I think this will make a lot of people very happy. It's definitely time that there was some consideration going on there, so I'm really pleased to see it.
And again, I agree, and I've seen many of the same comments. I think it's just to emphasise the point that's been touched on earlier in connection with master plans in our park. Master plans in parks was an initiative that this council brought forward. Stubberley being the first, and having been part of that, I think that first master plan was what felt like an absolute huge wish list of unaffordable projects. Over the various iterations of that and the improvements that we've brought, the opportunities on external funding, in part through having a master plan, having a friends group, all those opportunities, working with the council officers on that, has seen significant improvements. And it's great to see that model's been rolled out across the borough. Edgeside having its own master plan, as does Whittaker Park, and hopefully to see that framework being the opportunity for future funding. So again, it's really good news, and it proves the master plan strategy that this council adopted is clearly working. Samara?
Yeah, and I suppose that the thing as well to recognise is that these things take time, don't they? And I think sometimes people don't always understand that these things are going on in their communities. And I know we're going to be talking about the communication strategy afterwards. The communication on our social media channels is coming on leaps and bounds, and I just think there's a piece to play in that, in telling these stories like from the start, because I think all too often we wait for like a big ta-da moment, and it might be, talking about things as we're doing them as opposed to waiting for the big shiny ribbon on the end, and will help people see what's actually going on, and we're not just all sat there waiting.
Some good points, Adrian.
Just also to emphasise the community element of this, really. I know that a number of councils like Samara is working with people in Haslington on the parks. I think it's very important we have that community involvement, because that's if people are making decisions effectively in terms of what they want and what they need, which I think is vital, really. So, yeah, a very, very positive report, and investment in the right places with support from the people around them, which is really good, I think.
Yeah, it does again lead into the next item on the agenda, the communication strategy. But I guess the question in connection with this, the communications around this opportunity, and looking forward to, I'm sure there's a plan in place, and looking forward to see that being delivered on in terms of how we're communicating that investment in communities. Okay, if there are no further
A really simple question. Derbyshire Environmental Trust. why are they giving us money when we're not in Derbyshire? Is it like a general pot that anybody can
Yeah.
apply for? I just never heard of it, and it just seemed a bit strange with it being Derbyshire.
Yeah, it
So is it
seems,
something that
Part
we
of the
can apply to for other?
yeah, it's part of many of our other landfill
Is it?
tax entities who seem to be have a wider focus than simply Derbyshire, and I'm delighted to be part of enjoying the benefits of it.
Sorry, I was just interested. that's all.
We'll get it from anywhere.
Yeah.
Thank you. So the report's been moved and seconded. Some good questions there. Thank you. So if I can ask the members to vote. Yeah, that's clearly carried. Thank you. So that now does take us on to E1 non-key decisions. And the E1 being the communication strategy 25-29. If I can ask Councillor Lithgow to move the report.
Thank you very much. I think it's an approach that works. So the action plan outlines in detail how this might be met. And I think we all have recognised the impact of the refreshed approach has had already. And I think how it builds on the good work that had been done beforehand. So I think it's a continuation of what we've got with a bit of a refresh, a nice energetic approach. So I think it's a very positive report. I think it's the right way forward, and it seems to be working so far.
Thanks, Adrian. Thanks for moving and introducing that report. I'm happy to second that. I agree with the terminology in there. The not digital only. It's certainly something as members that we're highly conscious of in communication with residents that are not digital enabled for a whole raft of different reasons. So to recognise that with such a snappy title around that, I think is really, really positive. So thank you for that. Are there any comments or questions from members? Councillor Barnes.
It was just to sort of build on that in relation to the Valley News, the newspaper that was sort of delivered out. I think it's going to be every quarter, something like that. I've had such excellent feedback from that. People who felt more engaged with the council, people who don't use social media are finding out what's going on. And I even had 2 people who've moved out of Rosendale ask if I could post for them, which I did, but it's not on a subscription basis, so I won't be doing it every time.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Councillor Smith.
Yeah, just to say how positive it is, and it's great to see we're doing a lot more video type things, which I think are definitely more engaging out than Councillor Walmsley. But also I think because we're being much more positive and proactive with our engagement with residents, we're getting more positivity back. I think a lot of the time, particularly on social media, it is a lot of negativity, but I think because we're putting more positive and keeping residents updated, people are feeling that they can be positive back and not sort of these keyboard warriors taking over. So I think, you know, it's a great strategy, and looking forward to seeing where we go from here and keeping residents up to date and telling them what we're doing, all our good news for a change.
Yeah, I agree completely, with the exception of having to be in front of the camera rather than behind it. But it is good news to use all those different avenues available to us. Clearly, there's as Councillor Smith has said, a significant amount of good news. Some of these not least led by having improved budgets for councils. And we'll come on to a positive report later on tonight's agenda in our out-term report. All those feed into good news story for residents, better services for residents, and there are some really good stories and opportunities to speak about that. So looking forward to that continuing. Thank you. So the report has been moved and seconded. Thank you for the questions. Are we happy to vote? Those in favour? Thank you. It's clearly carried. So that takes us on to E2, the Valley Plan Out-Term Report 25-26. Again, Adrian, could I ask you to introduce and move the report? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. So again, I'd like to thank Claire and her colleagues for this report. Again, I think it's a positive report overall, with some areas that we recognise that we need to improve on. So the primary purpose of this report is just to provide the overview of the council's annual performance and associated achievements. The Valley Plan 2025 to 2029 was adopted by full council in April 2025. So Cabinet's to consider and note that the report. Overall, the report indicates that the council has performed well to date. The progress is measured quarterly, with the report then is reviewed by the corporate management team, Cabinet and ONS. So everything within this report is regularly scrutinised by a number of different people across the authority. So I'm happy to respond to any comments or questions, but the content has been reviewed on a number of occasions. I'm not proposing to go through it in detail unless anybody wants to pick up on any particular points. For me, it does illustrate the breadth and quality of what this small district council offers and delivers with a small team who deserve great credit, I think. So I think it reflects a lot of going on for a very small council with limited resources. And I think we've got a very committed staff, and I think we deliver a lot with limited means, really. And I think this is a good overview of it. Obviously, some areas to work on, but those have been discussed at ONS, etc. So happy to discuss anything else here, but I'm happy to move the report, which I think is a positive one.
Thank you, Adrian. I agree. I'm happy to second that report. Are there any questions or comments from members? Councillor Barnes.
Just a really quick one, and this has probably already been sorted, but there's a really lovely page on the out-term report, which would be great in the Valley News. It's sort of one of all of the. It's a bit of like a snapshot of some of the achievements, and I think having something like that in that newspaper. I mean, I'm sure Chloe's already on that, but I think that it's just a perfect way of showcasing what's going on, isn't it?
Yeah, makes sense.
Thank you. Can we ask that that's picked up as part of the ongoing communications on the Valley Plan? As Samara said, I'm sure it will be already there anyway. Are there any other comments or questions? Thank you. Again, I agree. It's a really good report. I think we have focused on a thriving valley as the Rosendale Valley, and the integrity of the valley, the geography of the valley and the community in the valley will still be the same beyond reorganisation. So to have a valley plan, I think it's a useful document to take forward beyond reorganisation as well. The report's been moved and seconded. Can I ask members to vote? Thank you. That's clearly carried. So that takes us on to performance matters at item F. And the first one, F1, the performance management report, Q4 25-26. Can I ask Councillor Lithgow to move the report and introduce it? Thank you.
Let's get down to that one. Sorry, some of these are quite long. Which one's this? F2, F1 now, or F2? I'm a bit confused. I've gone too far. Apologies. Right. So again, with this report, it has been subject to scrutiny by ONS. And I think a number of the items that are on there that appear in red have been talked about. Some of them we can't do a great deal about, but the ones that we can, we are trying to respond to that. I think the danger is that with a report like this, you do tend to look at the red, the arrows that are red, and think that's a real cause of concern. But things like increasing the household waste recycling, like we know it's a challenge. It's a challenge that all our neighbouring authorities have got, given the type of housing, etc., that we've got. And I think that as we move forward, then there are things that we can do. I think there's really good information going out now to the public in terms of what officers are putting out. Some really good material, which is getting really positive feedback. So I think we are starting to have a good campaign over that particular issue. I think if we go through, generally, I think the report is very positive, and it has been through scrutiny. It has been discussed on a number of occasions. But if there's anything that anybody wants to raise at this meeting, then I'm happy to take that up if I don't know the answer now. But I think it does reflect overall a high level of performance with issues that we are working on. There's no real surprises in there. So I'm happy to move it, but I'm also happy to take any comments. And if I don't know the answer, I'll ask Andy. And if he doesn't know the answer, we'll find out for you.
Okay, thank you, Adrian. So Adrian's moved the report. I'm happy to second the report. Are there any questions or comments from members? Again, just to echo Adrian's comments, I think our priority setting around what we're looking for as a borough, health in proud communities, is kind of one that sticks up there as a recognition at the moment with the work, particularly around the temporary accommodation provision. Is some real positive stories within the report this evening. As Adrian has said, it's very easy to get drawn to the reds and the negatives without looking at all the positives and the positive news story within the report. Again, thanks to scrutiny colleagues for the work that they've done in connection with looking at this report. But again, something we'll continue to monitor as we move forward. Thank you. So the report's been moved and seconded. Can I ask members to vote? Those in favour? Thank you. So that moves us on to F2, which is the financial monitoring report for the quarter 4 for 25-26. Again, another positive report. Thank you to Kimberly and the financial colleagues for the work and energy that goes into producing these reports. I'll briefly introduce the report, or I've asked the report to be seconded. After I've thanks, Michelle, and I'll introduce the report. Cabinet are asked to note the quarter 4 financial monitoring report, which sets out the revenue, capital, treasury and collection fund position for the year ended 31st March 26, so effectively our year-end outturn. The overall council position is it's delivered a strong financial outturn, reporting a favourable variance to budget of just under £700,000. You will recall that the annual budget set by council was £11,535,000, and this, together with additional funding of £93,000, the end result has enabled a contribution of £212,000 into reserves. Our budget originally expected us to withdraw from reserves £574,000, so a positive contribution back to reserves. The key positive variances are income. In income is interest income of £625,000. That's thanks to the strong treasury management work that the team has done, and us having higher cash balances than expected, creating an income of about £850,000 against a budget of £225,000. Our borrowing costs, our interest borrowing costs were reduced, largely through the timing of our capital projects, which meant that there was no financial borrowings needed in the year. This has resulted in the savings of £300,000. I would just urge members to note that these are one-off benefits as the borrowing expected as we continue with our significant capital programmes across the borough. Employee costs have a positive variance of £671,000. That's vacancy savings being managed and some vacancy within management, recruitment delays and the purchase of leave by some of our staff have resulted in salary savings, of which £400,000 of these savings have been transferred to earmark reserves to help manage future pay pressures. Planning income as a favourable variance of 118,000 generated principally through additional major planning applications received during the year, and a positive variance in our temporary accommodation of £51,000. And that is through the sterling work of the team, through the effective management of the homeless services, which reduced our B&B usage, length of stays for residents in B&B, which has delivered savings. I'll just recognise again the work done by Cabinet overview and scrutiny on the homeless and on homeless strategies, homeless prevention, and the tireless efforts of the Housing Options team has brought this year improvement. In previous years, we have significantly overspent our temporary accommodation budgets. And it's the tangible outcomes for residents, for those at risk of homelessness and those that are being homeless, that have the opportunity to remain in the borough as a family, which I think is absolutely key. There's a pension deficit provision of 157,000 as a positive variance, as there was no pension deficit contribution required this year. Some overspends include within the budget a prudent bad and doubtful debt provision, which has been included at year end. The operation and fleet, parks and fleet principally, an overspend of £116,000. I think that's fair to say it's around ageing fleet and increased maintenance costs associated with an ageing fleet. And to mitigate those repair costs going forward, the street sweeping equipment has now been replaced. There are additional professional fees included to address some health and safety requirements in the borough. And a housing benefit adverse variance of 65,000. The small shortfall between the housing benefit subsidies and payments made, again, is significantly improved against the previous years. The report contains information on our capital programme, a significant capital programme, which is just over £35.7 million, with expected expenditure at 9.4143. So the variances are effectively movements into future years. The collection fund performance, the council tax rate continues to improve, but our rates of collection remain below pre-pandemic levels. That said, we are forecasting a surplus in the council tax collection fund of 745,000 for Rosendale. The business rates collection performance remains stable when we compare 24 to 25, but there are all sorts of complexities, I think it's to say, in year in the comparison of the years, along the lines of COVID grants, various reliefs, revaluations, etc. But the collection performance against 24/5 to 25/6 remains broadly stable. Membership of the Lancashire Business Rates Pooling is expected to generate a further £691,000. I think, again, to recognise members' agreement to remain in the pool, it's clearly brought significant annual benefit to Rosendale. Our reserves position are, as noted within the report. I think key risks going ahead, just to mention those, the report does highlight some ongoing financial risks, and I will just note a few. Continued inflationary pressures affecting contracts, utilities and supplies, rising and significant construction costs rising, which has the possibility of impacting on the challenging delivery of the capital programme. Vehicle replacement programmes, we know that costs are running in excess of 20% over and above original estimates, and our future borrowing requirements, as delayed through through delayed capital projects, will impact some of that as well. Use my stomach.
Some chocolate.
There is still the ongoing challenges around the government fair funding review, and we should also note the potential cost pressures to LGR. That said, in conclusion, the council will ended 25/6 in a stronger financial position than anticipated, driven largely by the exceptional treasury performance, salary savings, and delayed borrowing requirements. As I said earlier, members should note that it's unlikely that some of these variances will be repeated, and risks remain around inflation and capital delivery, future borrowing costs, and government funding reform. The focus for 26/7 clearly remains on financial resilience while progressing the capital programme and preparing for future funding pressures and LGR. Happy to move the report. Is there anything you wish to add, Kimberly? Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments on the outturn report? Adrian.
Just a comment, really. I think the highlight for me, really, I think of the report is reduction in use of B&Bs, really, because that's having a huge impact on people's lives, really. I think it does reflect amazing work by that team, because that is something that has a big impact as well. I think within this report, we need to recognise as well that the investment that the council's put into sort of environmental changes within vehicles in the operations team. I think as a council, we are doing all the right things. I think at the moment, it seems to be coming together, really, and it's having an impact now. So costs are coming down because of what we invested in the past, really. So it seems to me like things are working, really. We've only got 2 years left, but I think things are working well, really. And I think some signs in that this is really positive.
Thanks, Adrian. Samara?
It's just to thank the team for all of the hard work putting this together. When we know we have to scrutinise something, you try and find the holes in it. But sort of every question that I came up with was sort of answered throughout the course of the report. And for a layperson in terms of finances, that's not my strong point. It really helps me understand the position that the council are in, and it feels like we're in an all right place. And we don't get to say that often, do we? So well done, and thank you for making it easy to digest and understand.
Thanks, Samara. Again, I agree with I would say this, wouldn't I? But the ability to read the report from a non-financial person. I think the team do put an awful lot of energy into the narrative within the reports rather than just the numbers. So again, please take our thanks back to that. To pick up the point on the homeless cost saving, it's very easy to get wrapped up in the numbers, but you're absolutely right, Adrian. It's around families, it's around people. But also it's around the approach of this council, our members and this borough. When we recognise those challenges, it wasn't just, we've got these challenges, it's what can we do about it? And through the work, through Cabinet and through scrutiny, and the opportunities that we created, we're now making a real difference. And I'm proud of being part of making that, as I believe we all should be. So again, thank you again for the team that do that. The report's been moved and... Sorry.
Can I just ask a question? Just going back through it. The underspend on employees, vacancies, what sort of impact is that having on, if any, on services, service delivery, if we're, not recruiting staffed positions?
I think there is the senior officer post, which was vacant for some time whilst we looked at reorganising the structure of our lead team, which is a factor within that. The delays are not of intention. It's around the opportunities created when vacancies occur to look at that opportunity, to look at how that can be re-recruited to bring the best benefit to residents. Agree it is a significant number, and we do look where possible to look at recruiting maintain our headcount, for want of a better expression, as efficiently as possible. But it's right to pause and reflect, I believe, where vacancies occur, rather than just directly recruit on like-for-like vacancies. I don't know whether any of our officers have any further comments to add to that.
Just to say, I think it's inevitable that you get some delay there just through a recruitment process. By the time you've looked at what the options are, gone out to advert, waited for notice, you're looking at a 3-month window anyway. So, and there's naturally a churn. So I think there's some specific examples where posts have deliberately not been filled, but the others, it relates more to a natural churn. So yes, there is an impact in terms of service delivery whilst that recruitment's going on. But I think the overall churn of staff is very low in the council, and I think that, it sort of shows the sort of positive working environment and the good staff relations that we have within the teams. So yes, it has a bit of an impact, but I think we try and keep it minimal.
There's also, it looks a big number, but as a percentage of the actual total salaries cost, it is quite a small percentage.
I think we should also recognise that there has been some significant challenges in recruiting to various departments, principally through the volume of people with the appropriate skill set in the marketplace to want to apply for those vacancies, which again, I think officers have worked hard at looking at what we can do to mitigate that by using other opportunities that are out there, not least sometimes through agencies or shared resources. But that is also in the mix as well. I think Kimberly's point's well made in terms of the overall annual salary budget. Principally, we're a people organisation. It is significant. Do you have any further comments? Okay, so the report has been moved and seconded. Can I ask members to vote? Thank you. Clearly carried. Before we turn the live stream off, thank you to anybody who has joined us on Zoom, Teams, YouTube this evening. Thank you for your attendance.